So Mia, as you peer forward into the future, where are things heading in the cyber space? What are the challenges and opportunity areas to staying on top of the threat? Is there any hope for us?
I think you just need to be really vigilant, especially online and with social media. There's so much information that we just freely share, to include maybe our pet's name or little things that could be used to help someone figure out a password. There's also things that we do, like we don't actually, when we get the little update in the corner, we don't necessarily do restart now. We'll say like, let's wait till later. And cyber criminals are aware of that, right? We float out these vulnerabilities, we publicize it, it's on Twitter, and folks wait to actually update, and that makes you more vulnerable. So I feel like there's hope if we actually combine this basic skills of just updating your computer and making sure you have the latest software on there, coupled with just being aware of what you're posting online. But it's hard, right? Attribution is hard. We don't know who's doing it. They're often hidden, just because. And if we can find them, that doesn't mean we can actually recoup anything, right? Maybe we can't get the money back or your information back, especially if they publicize it, right? The damage is already done. So we just have to be really proactive. But yeah.
So how is the nature of the threat changing? I assume with the emergence and acceleration of certain technologies, that's posing additional challenges from a security perspective.
So I would say the threat is changing in terms of, actually cryptocurrency is a place where I think it's making it harder to detect who's doing what, right? Because people are doing things to profit. And so if they want to get funds, they're probably going to use cryptocurrency type channels to get those funds. And if you're using something like Monero, a lot of times attribution is really hard because a lot of these companies are promising privacy. So you can actually engage in this market and remain completely private. Cyber criminals are actually taking advantage of the privacy that's offered through these cryptocurrencies. So I think that's one of the areas that we're going into. I think with other advancements like artificial intelligence, that's something that I believe that a lot of companies now, because of the GDPR, before they release it, they're actually balancing privacy and security, which in turn will help us out. So while we feel like we are moving forward with advancements in technology, they're also carefully thinking about how do you stay secure, how do you stay private? And of course, the more private you are, it's good for the, I guess, the good consumer, the good guy, but it's also bad for us because that means the cyber criminal also has a certain level of privacy as well. So.
I'm just curious how cloud-based services either are beneficial or a potential threat, from a security perspective.
So everyone talks about the cloud and what issues look like on that platform. And everyone's getting a cloud, right? Like Google, there's Azure Cloud. Yeah, it's the same situation where cyber criminals are able to roam free. Again, attribution is extremely hard, and it just makes it easier for them to just pick up and continue their operations elsewhere, right? Because you're not tethered to a hard drive. You can just literally just move your operation elsewhere. So I think in some ways it's made it easier for them depending on how secure that cloud actually is.
Now, do you have any perspective on cyber attacks from a terrorism perspective? Has that reared its head at this point in time, or are we still primarily dealing with some nation state actors, but criminals?
So I think that's a really scary thought. But I believe that if I were a terrorist, I would actually go after critical infrastructure, especially if you're trying to terrorize a nation. You would just go after perhaps the energy sector or something like that, keep everyone in the dark. So I think there's lots of opportunities there. I'm not sure if we've actually seen them taken advantage of, thank goodness, but I do think there's lots of opportunities. And we all know that our power grids have issues. And of course, they're going to have security vulnerabilities as well. And I really hope this is something that the federal government is tracking very closely. Also, with terrorists possibly taking advantage of some of these opportunities, there's also still the cryptocurrency aspect. So that'd be a great way for them to move funds without being detected, to then in turn launch these attacks, which may take down our system, which then may allow them to actually cause further destruction. So yeah, this whole thing could definitely spiral into a nightmare.
So having said all of those lovely doomsday things, what hopes do you have for the future?
um, I'm hopeful. I feel that at Microsoft, we definitely have hired a lot of our interns who were really excited and really big on security and privacy and taking things to the next level. And I think their eagerness and their willingness to just make sure our customers are secure, but also still to advance is really promising. Also, we hire a lot of folks globally, right? So they're bringing in different cultures and languages and perspectives, which only improve our products and security, in my opinion. So I'm pretty hopeful with the future. So.
And I'm just curious about the role of government with private enterprise, particularly when I think about more nation state or infrastructure related threats. Where do you see that kind of evolving, that partnership between government and private enterprise?
I think it's a pretty strong partnership. Like with ransomware, there was a ransomware framework group that actually partnered with the US federal government and industry to combat this situation. We all play a different role in it. Microsoft has no criminal authority and neither does, any other tech company. So that's, in that sense, you're leaning on the Department of Justice and perhaps even the Department of Treasury to enforce certain financial things that can or can't happen. Should people pay ransomware? Should they not? You also trickle in cyber insurance companies, right? So they're also at the table figuring out like, hey, if we insure these folks, is that okay? Will we get penalized by the government for basically making it okay to do this and paying out the funds? So I think we actually are partnering this because I think it's going to affect everyone at the end of the day. And I think because we're all tethered to the same critical infrastructure, it's in our best interest to partner together.
Yeah, I do believe that recently, perhaps even today, the current administration was releasing some, I'll say, thoughts relative to cyber guidance for private enterprise, not to be confused with regulation.
Yep.
But it does seem to me, that at some point there are a set of standards that probably need to exist. Is there been work done in that regard in terms of standards from a cyber security perspective?
Definitely. There are the NIST standards. There's actually recently my supervisor went on the Hill to kind of give some advice and guidance to the House representatives on what we should do moving forward to become more secure. And so there's definitely lots of opportunities to present your viewpoint from the industry. And I do feel that from there, the government is taking that and then pushing it out to solidify these industry standards and how we can all unite. So you will see that Microsoft, Apple, all the big tech companies are going on the Hill to make sure that we have a good understanding of being secure moving forward and how they can actually help.